A man, a fleet, a war, a movie. This is the biggest movie of the year, at least for the culture, for the world, I would say. I mean, maybe there will be bigger movies, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. This is the film that has captured the world at the moment, I think. It feels as though society for the last 20 years or so has moved away from being a monoculture. You know what I mean? Like, because of social media and the internet and the way we consume stuff now, people don't all do the same thing as we used to. Like, people used to all go and see the same movie, and that's all they talked about. Christopher Nolan is bringing that back. And he has been for a couple of years, but he is now here with his blank check post-Oscar film, The Odyssey, which is just an incredible project for anyone to take on as a singular theatrical film, and extremely ambitious. But I have now seen this twice, and I want to talk about it. And I'm going to get into some spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, go and watch my short reel on it on my Instagram, my TikTok, my YouTube. And that has no spoilers. But I want to talk about spoilers here because this is an experience. There isn't very often that an epic comes out, a film of immense proportion that includes hundreds of background actors, incredible performances across time and locations. And this fits the bill. Based, of course, on Homer's epic, The Odyssey, this film tries to tackle that famous Greek poem. And what can I say? I think it does a pretty good job. Now, there are things I really like about this movie and there are things that I don't like. So I guess I will just start with some positives. How do you approach a task like bringing to life the poem, The Odyssey? I mean, it is a sprawling narrative that cuts between locations and time and is told in a bizarre, non-linear fashion. I mean, it's a daunting process, especially to have it fit within a theatrical run and not be, 10 hours long. However, if you look at Christopher Nolan's work, you can see why he's attracted to this. I mean, all of his films, or the vast majority, involve editing that distorts time and a non-traditional or linear narrative. So you can see why it'd be a good fit. He also loves a leading man who is internal and is tortured and carries the guilt on his conscience. I mean, that's an archetype that he returns to time and time again. And it's no different with Odysseus here, or at least it is with the way he's portrayed in this film. And that's something we can talk about. Probably one of my main, and I'm not even sure if it's an issue necessarily, but it is a take. And that is Matt Damon's Odysseus. And I think this is probably something many of you will have seen people talk about. And I just want to give my 2 cents on it. Obviously, you have to abandon the fact that this film is not trying to be historically accurate. And I think that's okay. This is a film that has been remade and remade and remade and inspires so many things that you probably don't even realize it inspires. And through all of those, people have takes on them and they build on it and they adapt things. And that's okay. That's the beauty of art. That's what everything is based on. You know what I mean? Everything is built on something, some idea or framework. And that's what Nolan's doing here. This is an American version of this film, very clearly. All of his actors are acting in their regular accents. They're using modern language. And even the armor and the boats and the props, they try to make them look of the time. But of course, historians argue whether any of that is accurate at all. So I think it's just a rule of cool, broadly, that he's influenced by in this film. If it looks good, who cares about the historical accuracy? And I get both sides of this argument, but bringing it back to Matt Damon, when you see Matt Damon in a film, you think a leading man who you can resonate with and who you can root for. And he's got this warmth to him. And he brings this to Odysseus in a way that maybe is at odds with his characterization in the original poem. And I would say that in the original poem, he is this arrogant, witty trickster. And that is what he's super well known for. His ploy at Troy, that comes from him being cunning and outsmarting his enemy. And in every situation, his arrogance or his cunning feeds into his plight. And I just felt like that was missing in this. I mean, I never really felt like he displayed those two traits. I mean, maybe implicitly, and obviously he gets his crew through the Cyclops and the Sirens and Cersei and all that. But I don't know. I think I would have liked that to have been a bit stronger. Although you can see just from Nolan's take on this character why it's different. And it all ties into the central theme of this film. And that's Odysseus and his guilt over what he's done in Troy and how he feels as though he's brought on the downfall of a civilization. And as a result, that's kept him from going home and facing his loved ones. You know, obviously there's that big reveal at the end about sea people and how, in fact, that's actually Odysseus and his crew and the returning Greeks from Troy. And I think within the framework of this film, that was a good twist, as long as you set aside the original poem. I know there are allusions to him regretting his actions at Troy, but for the most part, he is heralded for it. And, you know, Athena, the goddess of war, is proud of him and impressed by him for pulling these tricks. And that sort of goes against his honorable character in this film. You know, one of his main defining traits is the way he plucks his bow to warn prey or enemies or what have you. And that's not really Odysseus. I mean, he's looking for any opportunity to get a hand up on his enemies. But what I find cool about that is that the one time he doesn't do it is in Troy, is when he doesn't want to alert the enemy. And I think that's really telling for the film and why he felt all this guilt. So that construction, whilst it's different and maybe it's a little uncomfortable for people who, you know, were hoping something more authentic to the original, I can see why he's made that change. And I think it's successful. I'm a fan of it, truly. But looking more technically at this film, I mean, come on. His partnership with Jennifer Lame just can't be understated. I mean, the editing in this film and what is required to stitch together all of these narratives into one final product that is cohesive and maintains its pace and doesn't drop off. I truly don't know how they did it. I don't know how they did it. And I think you have to applaud the way that they've constructed this film. I was super put off. I wasn't put off, but it took me a second to get into the flow of the film. But once I understood how he was telling it, through his flashbacks with Calypso and through Tom Holland's Telemachus in the present time, I really liked it. And I thought it maintained excellent momentum throughout the piece. And helping that along was the music. I mean, say what you will about Ludwig Göransson. Maybe he's a little overexposed. He's doing a lot, but he rarely, if ever, has missed. And I didn't notice it that strongly the first time around, but the second time around when I was really focusing on the music, wow, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. Especially, of course, what I think a lot of people's favorite part of the movie might be, that bow cue at the end with the suitors. Chills. I mean, that was amazing. That's reason alone to see it again, I think. I loved that bit. Otherwise, if we're talking performances, I mean, there's a lot of big actors in this. So, I mean, you know, most people, I think, do a good job within the framework of them just being Americans and using American accents. And that was kind of weird. And it took me a second to, you know, accept that. But once you do, and once you get over that, I think, yeah, it's fine. Honestly, I think it's fine. Let's talk about Tom Holland. I mean, I think he's a pretty divisive figure. There are those that love him. There are those that don't really rate him. And to be honest, I'm in the love him camp. I really rate him as both an actor and a person. And I'm glad that he is taking risks and doing roles that actually are challenging and push him. And he's clearly got a lot from this film if you see him talking about this. And I hope he carries it forward and chooses more exciting and engaging roles. Whilst his American accent may be not incredible, I thought his presence was really good. And he's kind of in a thankless role. Like, he has to play this sort of whiny little kid to begin. And then as the film goes on, he matures and becomes more of a man. And whilst at the end, I was a bit like, about how he was getting, you know, manhandled by like a cow herder. I was like, dude, surely in a room full of weapons you're trained in, you could take out this dude. But ultimately, I really liked his performance, and it was just great to see him leading a movie like this. I mean, I have to talk about Robert Pattinson. He's one of my favorite working actors. He is on an unbelievable streak this year. Truly incredible. He could get nominated for multiple Oscars. He's that good. And maybe his best role is still to come with Dune Part 3. But in this film, he's deliciously evil. Oh, some of his line deliveries are just So good. Beggars. Like, it's stuck in my brain. It's so good. Otherwise, John Leguizamo, man, like, it was totally unexpected for me, but really effective in the role. And he's not, I guess, he's not someone who's really been that celebrated as an actor, but he just popped out to me. And in the role he was asked to play, I thought he was really successful, and I really liked it. I really liked him. I mean, let's talk about some of the controversial castings. I mean, Lupita Nyong'o is not really in the film, but she is just stunning. And, like, I can't understand how people could have a problem with that. It's pretty hilarious that he's like, most beautiful woman in the world. Let's go straight to Lupita. Like, yep. Done. Lock that in. Like, and I get it. She is probably the most beautiful person in that movie. I can't fathom how you have a problem with that, but sure, whatever. I mean, like, they've got American accents, for God's sake. It doesn't matter. And the other one, of course, is Elliot Page. And I have to say, Elliot Page, maybe sneaky best performance in this film, or up there is one of the best. I just love that Chris Nolan could return to this person who he's got a relationship with and give them this role, and it fits them so well. I thought he was fantastic at portraying this character. And especially I need to call out the Hades scene, the whole scene itself. I thought Hades was just amazing. Maybe my favorite scene in the whole film. I loved how they portrayed it. Like, how do you portray the underworld in a realistic sort of take in a film? And I thought they nailed it. And the makeup and performance of Elliot Page in that scene, so cool. So good. So good. So good. Captivating. Loved it. Otherwise, look, I've talked about Matt Damon. He's not really one of my guys. And I think maybe there was more exciting options that could have been going here, but I still think he was good. Same with Anne Hathaway, maybe not one of my guys, but I can appreciate the work they're doing here. I think it's cool. Travis Scott as a bard, like, I think that's really cool. I loved it. Let's talk about Himesh Patel. I think he's good in the film, but I want to talk more specifically about the role. I kind of found it a bit grating. He was always the guy, and he played Eurylochus, Matt Damon's Odysseus' right-hand man, who was like to Odysseus, ooh, I don't think we should do that. Ooh, I think that's wrong. Blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, it just kind of got a bit tiring by the end of it. Like, bro, Odysseus going to do what he's going to do. Like, we get that you're this voice of reason, but I don't know. It was just kind of like, I don't know. Didn't do it for me, really. And then he sort of just messes up after following all of the advice, all the smart things to do in the film. Then he's like, I'm just going to eat the cattle. So I was a bit weak on that, but still liked it. Otherwise, I thought all the horror aspects that he brought to this were really cool. Obviously, he's a pretty traditional filmmaker in that he doesn't dive that much into horror. Like, and you know, there's not a lot of gore or blood in his films. But in this film, like the Cyclops eating a dude, pretty frightening. And the pig transformation, all practically done. Really, really cool. And I'd love to see him do some horror in his future. That would be really cool. Also, the final scene, I mean, when it all comes together, I thought it was a little messy and the action wasn't great. I'd love in the future to see him maybe hire a second directing team to potentially film action, because I don't think he has the best track record with it between you and me. And I mean, it was serviceable, but could be maybe a bit better. And it was really funny, Pattinson constantly being like, get the swords, get the spears. But I mean, it was effective, got the point across, I reckon. And then I'll just talk about the format briefly that I saw it in. So I saw it in an IMAX 70mm at the Melbourne IMAX, so one of the 41 or 2 cinemas in the world that can play that. Really special. Really, really, really special. Can't understate it. I mean, I'm not sure which direction that format and film in general is going to take, whether it's going to become more of a premium experience like a concert, because obviously it's been really hard to get tickets to this film in that format. But if you can see it in that, I think you kind of have to try. I mean, I found it amazing. So it was pretty special in that regard. But I also saw it in 70mm, non-IMAX, and that was just as good in its own way, you know what I mean? And I'm sure Dolby would be just as good. I've heard the sound design and that's really good. But really, see it in any format. It doesn't matter. It's still a good film. I mean, ultimately, it's just 2 bars. You know what I mean? It doesn't make that much of a difference. You can still enjoy the film. So, touching on a few cons, I would say I didn't love, and it sort of goes back to what I was saying about the characterization of Odysseus, but I didn't love that he removed Polyphemus, the Cyclops, cursing Odysseus, because that's kind of what sets off the whole Odyssey. But I get it, because the Odyssey in this film occurs more because of his guilt over Troy. And that Troy scene is just mind-blowing. Really, really, really good. Just technically, I thought, was there a problem with focus pulling in this film? And maybe it's the equipment, the big IMAX camera, maybe for whatever reason makes it harder. But I did feel like maybe, I'm not sure what the focus puller was doing in some scenes. Sometimes it was blurring out of focus, but very, very minor thing. And yeah, I would honestly just say, I'm not sure Athena, the goddess of war, who was super pumped about Odysseus' trick at Troy, I'm not sure she would be crying and regretful. And even if she was and, wanted to teach him a lesson, I guess, why would she help him? It's kind of, I feel a bit weak if you read too much into it. So I'm just going to take it at face value, and I enjoyed it. There are still Christopher Nolan kind of dumb stuff in the script. Let's be real. I mean, the age of bronze is coming to an end, and we were the sea people all along. A little ham-fisted, but I think you got the point across, and I think generally it was still effective. I'll say Calypso, super underserviced role for Charlize Theron. I mean, I understand why they had to change her to fit the structure of the film a bit better, and you can't fit everything in ultimately, but she's very much a nothing character in this, but what can you do? I still was happy that she was featured, I suppose. So yes, look, I will say about Christopher Nolan, he can make a film. He's never really made a bad film. For me, his films vary from good to pretty fantastic. But they're never, for me, going to reach the heights of some of the great films ever made. And that's just because he has his Nolanisms that maybe hold him back a bit, script things, action things, ability to write women, and clearly the things he's interested, time and these tortured men, and these are all things he is very interested in, and it shows in his films, and that's a signature filmmaker and his taste and his art, and I understand that, and I'm not asking him to change that. I'm just saying, to my taste, that's how I see it. You cannot argue he's probably the definitive director of this century so far. I mean, he just is. And his support of the theatrical experience, can't be understated how important that has been to keeping the health of cinemas alive. And this movie about an epic that's thousands of years old is going to make $1 billion. And that is remarkable. Whatever you think of him, you have to admit that is incredible. And so I love him for that. Truly, I do. In a world of fast attention spans, he's a director that can hold your attention. He's an event filmmaker who people will go out and see and then speak to everyone about. I mean, I went to work and everyone was speaking about the Odyssey in a way that you just haven't or don't see in films anymore. I think it's really interesting to see his last 3 films, Tenet, Oppenheimer, and the Odyssey, how they speak to each other. I really think they're kind of an unofficial trilogy when you think about it, especially in the way they deal with time. Really, really cool for me. And I'm very excited to see what he does next, even though he says he's taking 3 years off. Where do you go from here? Very curious to see. So yeah, it's a Christopher Nolan film, flaws and all, but it probably is one of, if not his best ever. If you love epics, if you love Nolan films, if you love Swords and Sandals films, if you love Matt Damon, if you love Anne Hathaway, if you love Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson, if you love any of these incredible performances, if you love Greece, if you love the mythology, the history, you're going to like this film. And it will be a lot of people's favorite film this year, I think, and justifiably so. But anyway, that's enough from me. Really curious to see what you guys think of this. Please let me know down below what you think. And if you agree, disagree with what I'm saying, you can find me at Films with Darcy on Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd, and on YouTube. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you later.